So thanks for joining us and the panelists to discuss quantum and sustainability. And lucky to have on the panel here, Robus. And I've been practicing pronouncing your name, but it's still French pronunciation. From the Quantum Delta Netherlands. He's a co-founder and board member, as well as director of the industry and digital infrastructure, plus a board member of the Center for Quantum and Society that we'll discuss more in detail.
Yeah.
Right. Got all the hats, right?
Too much hats.
And Bill Huggins from Google Quantum AI, senior research scientist. Unfortunately, our dear friend Catherine Spendier from XPRIZE, who is the technical director, prize director for quantum application, had a family emergency and is unable to join the panel. So we will still discuss the XPRIZE competition, and we will cover this, Bill and I. So we're all here, and so the topic quantum and sustainability, we're at Q2B, so quantum is covered. I think we don't need to discuss about it. But sustainability may be worth spending a few seconds on what do we mean by this. And so the United Nations has defined 17 sustainable development goals to define a clear agenda. What are the goals? What are the targets? What are the actions that we can do around pockets of areas where we think that will have the highest impact to tackle global challenges, so going for health and food and global partnerships and climate change and so on. So there's a framework that really helps to understand sustainability. And today we really want to focus on impact on our society, impact on our planet. And at Quantum Delta, you very early on defined there's a priority on sustainability, on the impact on the society, and founded the Center for Quantum and Society. Could you please, explain a little bit more?
Maybe in the beginning also, so thanks. Maybe the beginning to explain a little bit about the program. So Quantum Delta is the national program of the Netherlands that has the goal to accelerate quantum technology and create economical impact on the Netherlands, where it's concentrated around the developments of technology for quantum computing, network and sensing. And we have defined different action lines because it's not only about technology, there is much more that is required there. So we set up an action line about open calls for research. We defined an action line to build up the ecosystem. So how can we drive technology from the innovation institutes into new companies, new startups? We have designed an action line if it comes to how can we train the workforce of the future with different programs on education. And we have designed, and that's the link to this panel, an action line where we look to what is the impact of quantum technology on society, on ethics, on topics like sovereignty today, but also what is the impact on the good and the bad side of the technology. And in this action line, the Center of Quantum and Society has formed with sort of mission, how can we make quantum for good? And how can we drive these developments for our society with different programs on education, on research, on also the translation from the technology into different industries like energy and many others.
And how do you, with the activities at the center, how do you measure impact?
I think that is really difficult, a really good question. I think overall the program, we have lots of KPIs defined, which you can look from the number of students that you have, on the number of startups that you have, etc. But how do you measure impact on society? I think that is difficult. I think that's also a discussion that we had for a long time and still continuing, what is the outcome of it? I think what is at the moment the translation, how we acted, if society is understanding what quantum is and how can you benefit or work with it on the longer term. And that's what we also did with deployments of a sort of national quantum course, so that also my mom and dad that have any clue about what technology is, hopefully can understand what the technology is and where I'm working on, but also what the technology means for the longer term. And again, that's debatable on what kind of KPI you put there. But if we created a sort of awareness by people that are unfamiliar with quantum or even unfamiliar with technology, and they have now a clue a little bit what quantum is. And of course not explain what entanglement is, because even the professors don't know how it works. But that's already an important result, what we would like to achieve.
Yeah, so you're playing the role of a translator between
Correct.
the technologists and the society,
Correct.
and giving this opportunity to understand.
Correct.
Yeah. Very, thank you. I mean, the next question, and then we're going to cover it maybe together, is, I mean, the next question is how do we scale? How do we create a market around quantum and sustainability? And so we'd like to discuss a little bit about the XPRIZE competition, which is one example to foster or incentivize around building a market around quantum application. And so XPRIZE have been shown as a good framework or a good mechanism to create and amplify, multiply from the money that they inject into a competition to the money that will be invested after that through these competitions. So they've been running for 30 years, and I was looking at their data, like from 400 million cumulative prize purse, there was more than 2 billion that was invested in and generated more than almost 900 patents and more than 1,000 scientific publications. So there is from putting a little bit of money and giving a chance to look into global challenges with emerging technology, then you can create and scale a better market. So I'd like to focus on the Quantum Application Prize. GESDA, where I work, and Google Quantum AI are both sponsoring the prize. And I'll let you present a little bit what it means, what is the goal.
Yeah, well, I think from Google's perspective and from my perspective, I see a lot of, there's a lot of young researchers, students entering the field. There's also a lot of wonderful, talented folks from the academic communities and different corners of industry and government. And a lot of us, myself included, sometimes gravitate towards the sort of abstract end of the research. In a sense, it's much easier to ignore the messy details of an application and to think about the sort of abstracted problems. And in some ways, it's really painful to go and figure out all of the details that you need to really take a quantum algorithm someday to an application and to figure out what needs to be done to do that. And so we anticipate that people are going to put up with that difficulty when it's a commercially viable application and there's plenty of money to be made. But in these types of applications, they might be very beneficial to society and hopefully address some of the issues that the world is facing around sustainability and climate and other things. We thought it would be valuable to sort of tilt the scales for these researchers who are coming into the field from all different kinds of directions and encourage folks to really focus on these meaty questions of how do we take an algorithm or an abstract framework or a piece of the puzzle and assemble everything to really think about solving some particular challenges or at least making real progress towards doing that.
Yeah. And it really aligns on our side with GESDA. We created the Open Quantum Institute with the goal to promote global, equitable, and inclusive access to quantum computing. And through that, once we have access, what do you do? Let's make something good, and then tackling the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, and looking at the application. So we co-design with XPRIZE. Maybe like 3 years ago, started brainstorming, working with you, and then so delighted to see that the prize has been launched. It was launched March of this year. And can you explain a little bit? Do you want to talk about what are the tracks?
I also want to add one thing that the word you said, inclusive, reminded me that something that I think we've seen at Google as we try to work on these kind of different applications of quantum computing and flesh them out is that it's really necessary to bring together people who have domain expertise with people who have quantum algorithm expertise, and not even just get them in the room together for a day or a weekend, but to encourage like a long-term partnership and exchange of ideas. And so that's as part of the idea here with this prize that we've launched is that we'll encourage teams to come together. And in fact, if teams are still coming together, the prize is open for registration until tomorrow, I believe.
Tomorrow, not only you believe, but it is there.
Okay, wonderful. I don't know the exact time, but don't leave it till the evening. I mean, there's a structure that we've set up with collaborating and with the X Prize and their experience in running these sorts of things, where we're asking people to form teams now and register. And then we have a timeline of sort of looking at some preliminary results and hoping to, I think is it August of next year?
Yeah.
Coming together in August of next year, assessing some of the progress towards solving these challenges. And we can talk a little bit about what a really successful entry would look like. But coming together and looking at progress in August and awarding some portion of this $5 million prize pot to folks who are making progress along the way. And then over the course of the next 2.5 years after that, until March of 2027, giving people a chance to really develop and flesh out either sort of new quantum algorithms that they can make a credible case are going to impact some of these societal challenges, or developing new applications of existing quantum algorithms and really going beyond sort of one sentence in the beginning of a paper about how you think that this might be useful for climate change, and fleshing out that story and understanding, what problem are you solving, how are you solving it, what kind of impact you think that you'll make on a particular societal problem, what are the resources required to make that impact.
Yeah, so there are 3 tracks, just to summarize in my own words. One is to develop a new algorithm, looking into all of the 3 tracks should be aligned with having like impact and sustainability. So one is defining new algorithm, second one, new application for real world application, and then third one is on enhancing performance. So the existing algorithm, like where can you reduce the resource needed for such algorithm while applying it to a real world challenge. And it's a 5 million purse that is open on today until and tomorrow to register. And then after that, you need to maybe see me or other advisors and people connected to get a wild card. So we talk about multidisciplinarity, and with the prize, multidisciplinarity is really at the core of what QDNL is doing, not only at the Center for Quantum and Society. Do you want to comment a bit on this?
I think the multidisciplinary is the important next step that we need to bring further. At the moment, I see too much silos in the technology development. Even there's an enormous gap between the hardware developments in the quantum technology domain versus the software developments. Even if I look to our own ecosystem, we have nice developments in hardware in the Delft area. We have nice software developments in the Amsterdam area, but there is a gap how to bring this together. And I think that is one point. So the technology on hardware, software, full stack approach needs to come together. That is, of course, what we need to drive technology-wise further. But then if you make the step to the end user perspective, some of the end users are interested because they like to do new technology. But if we want to drive it further, where there is a sort of global adoption of the technology, we need to look to a broader perspective on how we translate the technology. And the technology developments are going so fast at the moment that we can't wait until sort of the technology is mature, that we have the 1,000-qubit computer available there, because when it's there, I think we are too late to get the audience, the end users, up to speed to use it. So I think the parallel tracks that, especially also we started in the Netherlands, but also in other locations, is crucial to drive this further. And that's the reason also that we put so much effort in that Center for Quantum and Society, because the adoption is quicker than we think.
Yeah, so driving the adoption and getting the market ready for this adoption, doing it in a responsible way. So you're also leading on the ethical and responsible aspect of this. Yeah. Let's dive into a little bit more on the on the technical part of quantum application, because we were thinking far with bringing it to the end users, and then now, like, what can we do today, and how do we keep rigor on what we are developing? And you are a quantum scientist. This is your role to develop rigorously new algorithm. Can you tell us, what are the challenges to, because it's not a plug and play at the moment. It's maybe never going to be a plug and play from an algorithm to a real world application. Like, what are your challenges here?
Yeah, I like that question because there are so many people in the world that have really difficult computational problems, and a quantum computer will not help you with most of them, so far as we know. And so this is, I mean, it circles back to this like theme of interdisciplinarity and bringing different people together. It's very difficult to know on the face of things if a quantum algorithm will be useful for a particular problem unless it's already been well understood. And so I think it's really necessary to build long-term relationships between people who are studying this technology for its own sake and people who are studying particular applications or trying to solve particular problems. I mean, that's one thing that we do, and at Google, we've internalized that in some particular domains. Yeah. We have some focus on chemistry and material science, as well as sort of abstract quantum algorithm development, for example, or other areas. But this is really too large of a problem to tackle in any one place, right? Even if you have the expertise in sort of one or two things, you might need to bring together, to solve the challenges in a field where we didn't anticipate quantum algorithms being useful. We're going to need to develop or find experts and collaborate with them in these other domains. For example, if it turns out that recently developed algorithms for simulating springs turn out to be useful for modeling electric grids and in doing some optimization there, I have never thought about designing an electric grid. I will not be a useful piece of that piece of the puzzle. So that's one aspect of it. And then I think we also, as we're getting excited and trying to make these different connections, we need to be realistic with ourselves and with the public and with each other about just how it's quite difficult to solve many of these problems. If they were easier, they would have been solved already, and a quantum computer might or might not be useful. And I think it's, in a few years, when the pressure is on to demonstrate that we've made progress, we'll really look back and be grateful that we were thoughtful about the claims we made now. So maybe a long-term enlightened self-interest is part of the answer to that.
Yes, I see what you mean. Yes, yes. And this is a bit, and then, so at the Open Quantum Institute, we are looking at different use cases for climate change, for health, for hunger, and bringing on multidisciplinary teams from all around the world to look into these. They are coming with, most of them, maybe a computer science perspective and entering their quantum journey. And so there's a big gap where we need to train them, and working with everyone here in the room, plus you as a member and partner of the OQI is really helping to build this methodology and keeping rigor as we're exploring application. There's no standards, right, how to build application. And we're talking a lot about quantum computing. There's also quantum sensing that maybe not Google is looking, but maybe you want to mention a little bit of application for sensing or communication also.
Maybe communication maybe is a good example. That's a project at the moment that we not drove from the quantum for the Center of Quantum in Society, but is a very good example of what we did in our program that is on quantum communication. So how can we secure data exchange, for instance, in the port of Rotterdam? So we deployed a large network in the port of Rotterdam to build up experience with the infrastructure of the port to see how we can make it more secure, but also how can we train all the units that are involved in this network infrastructure on how to work with it and what the technology could mean now, but also on the longer term. And that has triggered a lot of discussions on even the pilots that are going onto the boats to get the ships in, that they work, hey, we have now a quantum network, what does it mean and how does it work and what could it mean for the longer term? So by doing a couple of these for a smaller deployments of the technology in sort of real life or real world application setups, that's driving the discussion, but it's also driving the awareness, but also triggers discussions where, oh, we are now working with quantum network technology, but what about quantum computing? Can we do something with algorithms to optimize our logistic challenges that we have in the harbor? What can we do with sensing to optimize radars, etc.? So one case that is openly and but is sort of touchable, because if you do something in the port of Rotterdam, it has a big exposure. It triggers a lot of other discussions and other fields that you can explore at the time. So and that way we try to hook on with different industries, also with the center to say, what can we do in different industries to trigger the discussion, but also to trigger the follow-up discussion that you want to have.
Yeah, yeah. So quantum is kind of the trigger to...
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So often we hear that, okay, great, you're working on sustainability, but you know, I'll put some effort and energy later when the technology is mature. I heard yesterday your argument, like you need to start now. You're definitely starting now. But how do you answer this to our community, or even beyond our Q2B community? Like why? Yeah, what's your answer to why now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our thinking about sustainability is focused on and driven by the applications.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that we think about those now is that, I mean, it's motivating. We have a team of brilliant people working on trying to solve these big problems, and they like to feel like they're making an impact on the world. I think another thing, though, is that we also, as we're scaling up and we're going from what was originally a very small effort to a large team, and we're making many processors, and we're doing all of this work, we're really thinking about how the way we do that is also, can we do it sustainably? Google has made this public commitment to be powered entirely by clean energy 24/7 by 2030, and our operations are a part of that. As we think about our plan for the next 5 years, we have to think about where our energy is going to come from. And as we start to grow and build relationships with suppliers, chemical companies, materials companies, vendors, thinking about the supply chain and the sustainability of that is definitely something we're excited to be able to do as well.
So Willow is sustainable, is a responsible chip.
Yeah, I mean, we are a drop in the bucket compared to most of what Google does in many ways, right? But we try to think about our drop in that bucket as, let's try and do it in the most responsible way that we can.
Yeah.
It's also, there are issues with pollution and semiconductor manufacturing, and those are not all solved problems, but we're thinking about them and trying to use the best solutions that we can.
Yeah, thanks. And do you have other comment on this? Why now?
Yeah, sustainable is, and also energy efficiency is, I think, if I look to the ecosystem, already in the genes because of the way we are now in life at the moment. But it's also driven by the maturity of the technology or the early stage where we're in, because the existing technology that we're going to deploy and that we are productizing at the moment are automatically consuming too much energy to reduce energy, because otherwise you can't make the business case on the right way. So by the deployments that we're doing today, it works because we are still sort of in a transition phase from research into industry sort of first applications there. But if you really look to the sustainability on the economical impact or the energy use, it's not working. So there is automatically an economical drive to think in that direction and to drive this further. And that's also what I feel in, for instance, the Dutch ecosystem. Yeah.
And so recently Quantum Delta had organized an event on quantum for good with the UN organization. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
So a good remark to this event. So we had 2 of these events a couple of months ago in Washington area and recently also in the Hague area At the moment, we try to drive with the ecosystem, and the Netherlands is leading this, but we also invited others from an international perspective to have that discussion with the United Nations. So how can we bring the technology further, not only from the countries that are advanced in this domain, but also how can we bring this in areas where they don't have any developments in quantum, even don't have the power or the resources to drive this further, but still can benefit from it. And that could be by optimizing logistics problems in a harbor in Africa somewhere, until sustainable discussions about climate in somewhere in Asia. And I think we had different of these types of discussions, and we find with the group that we brought together from the quantum domain in relation with the UN and UNNCC, a good chemical reaction between these discussions and sort of urgency to drive this further for our society globally, and not just for particular countries that are good in it and are fortunate to drive this further.
So can you just give the acronym UNICC? Is it what you...
Yeah, that is the IT structure technology unit, where also the standardization organization like ITU is part of.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. Just translating. Yeah, please.
I know you have other questions, but I really liked what you said about, I think, the efficiency of quantum computing. And I mean, the places where this technology is going to be successful is where it can be radically more efficient than a classical computing solution. Yeah. And we're already interested in it, from an economic and like a computer science perspective, getting that efficiency, but it also has real impacts on the energy usage of these high performance computations that we are doing now and we'd like to perform in the future.
Yeah, it's an important driver to bring this further indeed. Yeah.
And that's one, so there are different initiatives, including the Quantum Energy Initiative that is trying to define a standard, an international standard, at least a IEEE standard on measuring the efficiency of quantum technologies, the energy consumption, and how do we measure, does it make sense to develop the technology or use it? So. Yeah, and so that's a kind of a good segue where I wanted to mention other initiatives that are related to quantum and sustainability. We're here representing some of them. There are also a couple of challenges that came out recently, or that will come up in Calgary, I heard, with the Quantum City. There are some in Japan and Saudi Arabia, and looking at quantum and impact of mostly quantum computing for now. So the idea is really to inspire the global community to participate. So there is the X Prize, again, just giving another opportunity to think about it. There are 260 teams that from 45 countries that have registered. So don't miss your chance.
And just to be clear, as people who are not eligible because we're from the sponsoring organizations, we're somewhat jealous that you still have the chance to register in the next day and a half.
Thanks. That's good. Yeah. One last remark maybe from you, Bill, on how, while we are scaling in terms of embarking more people in this journey, what's the message you can give them to keep rigor and be really prepared in producing and using quantum technology in a responsible and positive way?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think a lot about and that we think a lot about. At Google, obviously we get very excited about the work that we're doing, and it is tempting to feel like it will solve all of the world's problems, or at least to hope that it will. But I think when we look at the history of even our field of quantum computing or quantum technology or beyond it, the contributions and sort of the things that we really remember are not the times when we've like raced ahead of what we know is possible, but it's been like the sort of steady, continued progress and the honest assessment of where we're at in the yeah, how to put it? It's, I think in the long run, we have seen people, and we have gone further by being really honest about what we're actually able to do. And I think if we keep in mind that this is not just a fad that we are participating in for a few months and before we move on to another thing, but we're in it for the long haul with this technology and the path toward fault-tolerant quantum computing, that we really will benefit from that kind of measured approach. And we certainly try to do that at Google in the way we communicate and the way we think.
Thank you. Oh, I think, yeah, thank you. And yes, so at QDNL, you have developed different tools also for responsible innovation, and I'm thinking of the ECTA cards.
Yeah, I never played it myself yet, but that's a shame. But yeah, there was a sort of game, a card game that we made that you can play with also people that are not familiar with quantum to understand what quantum is, how different technologies from the quantum domain could support different industries or different topics around climate change, etc. And by that game, you get sort of awareness how things are related and connected to each other. And especially our colleague Diederik Kroes from the Center of Quantum and Society played it with many industries, and it's a good start also to start a discussion and create the awareness and do some first training on the technology. And it doesn't feel as a training, it feels as a really playing a sort of Uno or card game or a Catan game that you're playing there. And that's very active to build the bridge and to lower the barriers to step in this sort of discussion or technology developments.
Yeah. Any other tools and resources that you would like to share in this audience? Opening the floor to questions before Jesse bites.
Maybe while we wait for them to roll in, I'll add one more thought.
Yes.
On this theme of sort of making sure that we stay rigorous, I have personally found, and I think this is an observation other people have had, and it motivates the X Prize's focus on really concrete applications, that when you tie your work to a concrete application and you think about end-to-end, not just some piece of a problem, but how will you put it all together, then it really forces you to be honest and to not sweep things under the rug in your own mind. So I appreciate that about the X Prize and the way it's focused, and I think that we all do well to do that.
So honesty in the development.
Shall we create a short interaction? Because
yes,
I feel that we need to have. I will jump out of the protocol. The audio is not working, but
do we have questions?
How can we make technology sustainable? Any thoughts?
I really like the idea of interdisciplinary, because I come from quantum algorithm research, mathematical. I had to learn engineering. I thought that was the end. But now it's like, to apply, I don't have any domain knowledge in drug discovery or quantum chemistry or in finance or energy sustainability, and I go, I need experts.
But how do you bring them now together?
I don't know. I just met a fabulous pharmaceutical drug discovery tool company, so I think we're going to collaborate, and we might want to sign up for X Prize. But I'm realizing I really like the idea where software developers are developing software, hardware people are doing hardware, and you try to put them together later with middleware. How about working together in the design phase in the first place? So I really appreciate it.
Let's check out this.
Thank you.
How do you make quantum sustainable from your perspective?
So yeah, I tend to believe that a lot of what we do is driven by good KPIs.
Yeah.
So in our company, or certainly most companies, we have goals, and the only thing that will change how we go to these goals is if we set things that we will, if we set KPIs that we will keep until the end.
But a KPI on social impact, what should be KPI then?
So on making a computer, you can say that you will have targets on how much it will consume. or
Okay. That's really a hard target on technical targets.
yes, but this is my experience that it works extremely well when you know where is the target.
Okay, sort of out of the box questionnaire from my side.
Thank you. Do you have any?
Yeah, we
slide?
actually have some questions that came in from the audience.
Wonderful.
The first question is, should the energy impact to operate quantum computation be taken into account from the ground up by national and European funded program?
What's your take on this?
Well, I suppose I'll reiterate what I said before. I was inspired by, I think, riffing off of something you said as well. Fundamentally, this technology is only going to be useful if it's radically more efficient than what we can do with classical computing. And so I think we should keep in mind that that is true in the long run, and that it's going to be work to get to the point where it is useful in the short term. And so we shouldn't over-optimize for the short term, but also we should be thinking about a responsible way to develop the technology that's going to mature as we scale these systems up. So yes.
And then yes, but not just in Europe, right? The question was for Europe, I would say.
Yeah,
globally,
I think European and other programs.
Yeah.
And it's not only activities that need to be funded by government organizations. I think it's important also that industries are starting up, invest in it and make resources, funding available to drive this further, because that also shows their commitment and their interest to make it sustainable in the longer term.
Yeah.
We have another question, maybe for you, William. Is Google participating in the International Year of Quantum, knowing the sustainability goals outlined in the UN Declaration?
I don't know what our specific programming is, but I know that we're really excited to be continuing to engage with sustainability. I mean, Google as a company and also the quantum team as well.
Do you want to share what's the plan for QDNL?
No, I think we have concentrated a lot of things during our own event in May, our Quantum Expo activities there, and we're participating throughout the year in many events like the kickoff with even the Center of Quantum and Society, in February in Paris. So be part of the program, also design the follow-up activities throughout the year to make quantum relevant in 2025.
Yeah. And that with the Open Quantum Institute and all the community, the partners, we are going to roll out many activities and then really going into what we like to call the underserved geographies, where there's barely access to either the training or even the technology. And so running hackathons for quantum for sustainability or quantum for social impact, and then also diplomacy games or quantum diplomacy games to really learn to become the translator for policymakers and diplomats as an expert in quantum. Any other question before?
That is all the questions we have
That's
right
it?
now.
Okay, so we have 30 seconds each, and I'd like to hear what's your wish for the next 6 months until we meet again at Q2B in Tokyo.
Yeah, I'll say that I think for both socially beneficial applications and for just scientifically interesting ones as well, it's my wish and my interest in focusing in the next 6 months on what will we do with the smallest fault-tolerant quantum computers, not the millions and millions of logical qubits, but the hundreds and hundreds of logical qubits. And I think we'll hopefully be there sooner than we expect. So,
thank you. Yes, sir?
Yeah, from Quantum Delta, many member states or many countries has copied our, for instance, national agenda. And yeah, you can see it as a sort of competition, but we see it as an honor that that happened.
Yep.
Same for, we brought people together and companies together in the House of Quantum, and also that is copied by many countries, and that's again an honor. So if I'm looking forward for the upcoming 6 months, I hope that others will copy our concept of the Center for Quantum and Society, because I think that's important, and it's an important factor also in the different discussions and on the strategies that we need to develop the upcoming period. So let's copy what we're doing from the Netherlands and learn from it jointly.
Thanks for the inspiration. and for pioneering and for leading also. Thank you for joining the panel, and thank you for attending this panel, and let's be an active actor for our quantum future. Thank you. Sustainable future.